So Einar Solberg is the keyboardist and vocalist for the metal band Leprous, often grouped into with the progressive label. They released their latest album, The Congregation, last year, and they'll be touring Australia supported by Voyager in late January, early February this year, playing at Melbourne on the 6th of February at the Evelyn Hotel. Einar, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So your latest album was called The Congregation. Now, what exactly does The Congregation refer to?
It's like, in a way, we're all part of the congregation. In today's society, you have the illusion that you have a free will to do whatever you want, more or less, as long as you're acting within the law. But actually, there are quite many, what to say, expectations you have to follow to fit into the society in general, and many things where, in a way, the society are pushing us into making what I would say are the wrong choices. It's harder to choose, for example, these are just examples, like it's harder to choose, for example, short-traveled food. It's harder to choose, for example, vegetarian food, or to choose clothes that has been handmade under good circumstances, etc., etc. It's these are just examples of that we are, in a way, just a congregation to follow the yeah.
So is that what you're trying to get with your album art, which I think it depicts two sort of dead animals embracing each other?
To embrace?
So I think the album artwork depicts two dead animals embracing each other. Is that the kind of reflecting the message?
No. Oh, no. It's not. No. It's not. It's actually a conjoined veal fetus.
Oh, that makes more sense.
That's actually, and it's just kind of representative of the deformation that is gradually happening in the overconsumed society that we live in today.
Many bands, they sort of have a sound, like Slayer makes a Slayer album, Cannibal Corpse makes a Cannibal Corpse album, and they sound like we all sort of expect them to sound. But for bands that people like to call progressive, it sort of has a varied mood, lots of sort of things going on. How do you make an album in that kind of framework where you're not as limited?
I mean, I don't understand how people can make an album with being limited. That's my. I would never. I would hate that myself. That's how, like, bands as Slayer, who were very innovative when they started. That's how they made what they made without having limits. But then the problem is that it comes to a point when eventually bands are scared of losing their fans, and they're kind of just often repeating what they're doing. And in my opinion, it's important to always be true to yourself and what you wish to do and what you wish to sound like when you make an album. And some bands wants to do this, have their sound, have their style, and that's what they like. But I really don't feel good about presenting the same piece of work twice. So it's only about that. It's about being open to to inspirations that comes your way, and not being afraid of disappointing. Because if you start being scared of disappointing, then that's completely wrong motivation for making music and art, in my opinion.
In terms of your live shows, you're a keyboardist and vocalist, which is kind of unusual for bands. How does it feel being up front, where I think in a lot of live shows I've seen at least, the keyboardist tends to be sort of segregated in the back, in the corner somehow?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, like, it's the only instrument I know how to play. For me, it's been natural. I've always done it since the beginning, and I'm the main songwriter of the band also. So it's the keyboard has always been like. Even though I consider myself much more a vocalist than a keyboardist, the keyboard has always been like a tool that I need to have there in front of me. I feel kind of naked without it, actually.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know why so many bands don't combine, but I guess it just looks cooler to be standing there with a guitar than standing there with that big keyboard in front of you. So maybe that's the reason why nobody's, because it's not very difficult to play keyboard and sing comparing to it's the same. I mean, it's not harder than to play guitar. So.
Well, I was watching some of your live stuff on YouTube, and I think you pulled it off, making it a bit cooler than some of the other bands do. So,
thank you. Well, it's maybe because I've done it for such a long time. I mean, it feels so natural to me. So it's not like and I do move around from the keyboard now and then. I'm not just standing there all throughout the show.
So in your live shows, how do you kind of replicate some of the atmosphere and mood in your music? Because some of them are quite, because you've got dynamic shifts, and some of them are quite quiet, quite emotive. How do you replicate that? I'm sort of thinking of songs like The Flood from a Congregation.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just need to, we set up lots and lots of rehearsals before we started playing these songs live, because they were kind of made very much as studio songs. So we had never played them live at all before we recorded them in the studio, and some of the sections were incredibly difficult to play live, and in the studio we just play them section by section, like small sections at a time. But it's all about taking your time to rehearse it enough and to be very critical on how exactly you want it to sound live. So we just took the time. That's all.
For those who don't know, you actually your band used to be the backing band for Emperor's Isan. When he went with his solo work. How does it feel, sort of the contrast between backing up someone else's music, playing someone else's music, and playing your own music that you've written?
I think the biggest difference is for me, actually, because with him I only had like a quite small role comparing to with Leprous, that I have like the most busy role almost of everyone. So it's and having to be the frontman at the same time. So for me, I feel much more natural in that role that I have in Leprous, and I've never been much of a session guy. Actually, it's not that much in my nature to be session. That being said, if we were to play session, which we did with him, it couldn't be a better guy to play with, because he's an amazing songwriter and musician, and more importantly, a very, very nice and humble guy to work with. So it was a great experience, but I've always it came to that point where it was impossible to continue with it, because we were too much gone on tour for him to depend on us for live shows. I mean, we can be away for almost 2 months, and that means 2 months for him without the chance to play live shows. It doesn't work, you know. So yeah.
Adding further to that, you were also one of the live keyboardists for some of the Emperor reunion shows. How does that compare, being a much more extreme sort of music?
Much more extreme music, but much less extreme keyboarding.
Yeah. That's true.
It's very simple, the keyboards there. So it's very straightforward. I just have to try to look extreme and then just standing there playing with 2 fingers. I mean, especially the first time I did it, it was from 2006, I think, and I was still just a teenager, actually. So it was amazing. I remember I'd never been standing on big stages before. I've just been playing local shows in my small hometown in Norway at that moment. So it was really a fantastic experience when I did it. And now the previous shows we did in 2014, it was also a good experience. Even though now I feel a bit more. I mean, I'm so used to only be playing my own music now that it feels a little bit strange to picking up the keyboard duties again for old school black metal. But well, it's good people to play with, and that's the main thing. It's nice guys. And good music, of course, too.
Yeah. Speaking of Norway and black metal, you sort of came of age when that was rising to prominence. Did that influence your musical taste at all when you were young?
Yeah. I really appreciated black metal when I was younger, and I still appreciate some black metal bands here and there, even though I feel that the innovation has kind of been slowing down in that scene in the last years. But I think it was very important part of it was. I used to listen to rap and hip hop actually, and then I when I was a young teenager, and then I discovered extreme metal, like mostly black metal, which kind of covered the same what to say, fuck everything attitude that I liked from the rap and hip hop, and it's just from a different angle. So I started getting into that was the first metal that I started listening to. It was black metal actually. So long before I started listening to prog or heavy metal, it was black metal were the first that I got into. So yeah, I can say that I kind of come from that background, even though I never really made black metal myself that much.
How did you get into this more prog stuff?
It was actually through our old bass player, Halvor, who played with us from, I think it was 2003 to 2010. And he was very into prog, and he showed us lots of stuff. So and then I started getting very much into all these, especially these 70s prog bands like King Crimson and Gentle Giant and etc. And there, from there, we kind of shaped more into, we wanted to be a prog band, but now we don't really think about it anymore. Now I'm kind of also growing tired of the prog scene. That's when you are in a scene for a long time. It's kind of, okay, they're doing that old trick again. Okay, they're doing this and that, and it's like plumber evaluating the work of another plumber. It's like I appreciate more listening to other stuff than prog. So even though we are categorized as a prog band, and I'm fine with being categorized as that, I don't feel that strongly related to the prog scene personally anymore.
Last question. So when I first heard about you guys ages back, I kind of assumed you were a death metal band because of the name. Can you tell me what's the story behind that?
I told you we came from. I come from a more extreme metal background, and then we were just looking to find. We weren't that good in English back then. I don't say that we're great in English now either, but at least we're better than we were back then. And we were just looking for a word that was like meaning something dark and scary, and we're just like leprous. Yeah, that's a scary disease. Okay, yeah, let's choose that. And then we were kind of just stuck with it, because when we started getting more recognition, just like, oh yeah, that's true, we're still called Leprous. Oh yeah, well, too late now. Yeah. Too late to change it now. So it wasn't really, and we grew kind of attached to the name. We like it now. It's us. It's us. Whether the significance of the word have anything to do with our music or not, I like the name now.
Leprous will be touring Australia, supported by Voyager, in late January, early February, and they'll be playing in Melbourne the 6th of February at the Evelyn Hotel. Their latest album, The Congregation, was released last year. Einar, thank you so much for joining me.
And thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.